Kandi Spangler for another episode of Two Wings Podcast. We are here today with Phil Stearns of Stearns Aviation or Aerospace and Defense.
It was Stearns Aviation for like 74 years, and 5 years ago or something I get with
I have old habits. They're going to be real tough to break, but
same company, same people, same everything. Much longer name.
Yes, excellent. So I'll just stick with Stearns.
That's what we're trying to do in the marketing department. So yes, carry on.
All right. So here with Phil, and Phil, you and I have known each other, a hot minute, like maybe, 2 months now?
Weirdly enough, we've known each other to knowing each other like this for a couple months, but have known each other by name and worked together for 20 years.
A long time. Like to really get to know each other, though, it's just been kind of recent. And
since Tucson, as a matter of fact.
Tucson.
Yes.
All right. So anyways, I asked Phil.
Which was 2 months ago. So there you go.
I've asked Phil to be with me here today because I thought it'd be a great opportunity to talk about his background. He's opened a new facility here in Denver. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to talk about motorcycles, which honestly, we should just skip straight to the end, but we're going to, pace ourselves.
Mentally, I already have.
It's true. Anyway, so Phil, tell me a little bit about your background, because I know that you you're the VP of sales, correct?
I appreciate the promotion. That title will probably happen here soon.
All right.
But no, I
Cat's out of the bag.
I know, yeah. The boss doesn't even know yet, so this may be the last. No, I've been with Stearns for about 20 years, but I think the most interesting thing is how I got there. And I'll be real brief because I'm never brief about anything. But when I got to the, hopefully not midpoint of my life, but when I got to 40, it was one of these things where I need to get into doing something that I'm really passionate about. My dad flew. He was a C-119 pilot, World War II in Korea in that area. Oh. One of the ugliest planes other than a shorts, just horrible looking thing, but that was his baby. Since I've actually been in a plane alone, probably 10 years. But right seating some things, absolutely. I was up in a King Air 350 just days ago.
Apparently that's the hardest type rating to get.
I am not type, so I was just in the right seat. Luckily it's a single pilot plane.
Gear up, gear down, radios.
Well, I didn't even touch anything. So officially for all the insurance people, I didn't touch a thing.
All right.
But the point is we did a performance run from ground all the way to altitude in a King Air 350 in 12 minutes. Wow. Which is 3 times faster than normal. It had the engine block.
Oh, yeah.
We videotaped it.
Climb rate?
Holy cow.
What was that climb rate?
We were in between 3 and 4,500 all the time, and then as we got to altitude, it was down in the 2s. But 12 minutes flat to 28,000 feet.
That's pretty impressive.
Like that.
That sounds like a fun ride.
It was. We were laughing. So anyway, how I got into this, though, there's that first 40 years of my life, couple different degrees, master's degree here, engineering degrees, things like that, doing stuff that I loved the companies, loved what I did. It was good, solid work. My dad came out of the Depression, so he always drove into me, find something solid,
Yeah.
Like, I want to be a pilot.
Dependable,
you don't. And, but midway through my life, I'm like, I need to go do something I'm passionate about. So I started looking around Central Ohio, what can I do in aviation? Because at least I have flown small planes. Never worked in the business, a moment in my life. So this is the kiss of death. And couldn't find anything. I stretched it out to about a 100-mile radius because my wife was really tight with the community, and we're not moving. So I'm like, I got to figure something out here in Ohio. Found this company, Stearns Aviation, over in Dayton, and I went on the website, found the HR person, and wrote the email, which again is another one of those, oh, who's this? Throw it away because I had no background. The next day I get a phone call, and she said, the general manager is expecting your phone call.
Oh.
Okay, what happened here? So I call over there, and they're like, yeah, come on over. So I went over there. My whole point was I just wanted to talk to the guy that runs it to see what it's like. I went over there, and on the very first interview, a guy that had no background whatsoever, halfway through it, he goes, let me tell you why you're here. He goes, you and I think a lot alike. He goes, I'm not much for degrees. I think they're a waste of time, but the guy who owns the company does, and you have them. He says, but we think alike, and I think you could be the guy that could run this facility when I retire in about 10 years. Zero experience. I'm 0 to 100 mile an hour like this. inside, I'm just jumping up and down, like a
Kid.
whatever, like a kid, like I am. And it took a year and a half though. It was just constant, every other month. Hey Ron, how's it going? What's going on? Just being patient and persistent. I didn't need to go, but I wanted to.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, several things transpired, but skipping all the boring details, at the end of it, he came along and said, the time's right. Do you want to make the move? And I'm like, absolutely.
Let's do it.
And it was it.
Huh.
And then I ran sales there for a little while. Again, I had no idea what I was doing, but I got into it, and my passion drove me there. And luckily, a welcoming family of a company walked right in there, and they opened their arms to me, and I didn't sleep for years and just kept going at it. And it worked out really well. And then I ran that facility in Ohio for a couple years. And then the owner of the company said, why don't you just run all sales and marketing for the whole company? And that's what I do now.
Wow.
And it's been, I've been there, I think, 18 or 19 years now. And,
And you're still based out of Ohio?
I live in Ohio. I could live anywhere.
Yeah.
I could do my job from Maui if I could afford to live there.
Well, the reason that I ask is I'm
and it's a
originally
boring motorcycle place to be on in Hawaii. There's nowhere to go.
I'm originally from Ohio, Eastern Ohio,
Okay.
below Youngstown. So I feel
So
like
you know where the racetrack is up there, Nelson Ledges. That's in the area. I've tracked that one. But go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I go in the country. I always end up finding the people from the Midwest, and I gravitate towards them because there's just such a welcoming vibe with people from the Midwest that I'm like, oh, I really like you. But then we like aviation and motorcycles, so now we're destined to be besties, I guess.
And you never know who they are from the Midwest because we don't have an accent up there.
That's true.
There you go.
Well, I do. So are you familiar with the term?
You're from Youngstown. That's a different area.
Do you know? Have you heard the term yinzer?
No.
Yeah. So I'm a yinzer. I'm going to explain what a yinzer is. Yeah.
Okay, right.
So a yinzer is a very small area. It's around Pittsburgh.
My parents are from out right in that area.
Okay.
McKeesport.
So yeah, exactly. McKeesport. That's right outside of Pittsburgh. So
you're about to say, my mom and dad are from McKeesport.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're probably related.
Yeah.
So they say, what are yins doing?
Yins, yeah.
What are yins doing tonight? And so that's pretty specific to this area around Pittsburgh. And so we're called yinzers.
Yeah, okay, yins. Yins as opposed to yins or yins. Okay, because you got the
y'all,
they got the yins.
Yeah, no, we're yins. What are
Got
yins
it.
doing? So
That's
we're
a
yinzers.
Pennsylvania
So
thing,
there you
sure.
go, fellow Ohioan.
Yinzer.
And so you've been with them 18, 19 years.
Something like that, yeah, 2005 or 6, I think is what it was.
And are you also a mechanic?
I am not a mechanic.
Okay. I was curious
As
if
a matter of fact, I never flew a jet before I came here. Not a mechanic. Within a month of coming on board, the general manager and the head of maintenance set me up on a, they knew this bad thing was going to happen. They're like, you need to go see this guy over Columbus. And he flew a beach jet. And I'm like, I don't know, what's a beach jet? Sounds cool.
They
So
have the little spoil.
yes.
Yeah.
So I go over there and I see this guy, and we became best friends. We're still friends today. And but
That's important to note in the story.
There you go.
We're still friends.
We're still friends today, even though we flew beach jet. Now I know better. So just kidding, beach jet people. So the general manager is like, you need to go see this guy. He wants one point of contact. He doesn't want to deal with 5 different managers over here. He wants one person. I'm like, okay.
All right, I'm in.
How hard could it be? So I went over there and met him. And I'm looking at all the different pictures on the wall, and he's flown different presidents and all these different things. And he's got a model of a Gulfstream G200 and a beach jet. And I asked the question, I'm like, trying to think I'm suave and smooth. I'm like, so, what's it like flying 2 different planes? And he's like, oh, well, this one's this and that. And he goes, and flying the beach jet without, it doesn't have any ailerons. It's kind of weird. And I had this look in my eye like, this guy's an idiot. And he goes, you don't know much about this plane, do you? I'm like, I know nothing about this plane, but I got 20 people behind me that know more about it than the Japanese who invented it before it was a Textron citation plane or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got a crew. I'm just here to help you get there. And he goes, let me show you. He put his arm around me. We went out to the plane. And he taught me the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how that all started.
They're actually sporty little airplanes.
They are. Fun to
but
fly. Fun to land.
in a crosswind.
Turn the yaw damper off and it gets really weird.
It gets a little exciting.
Little spoiler-ons don't do much.
Yeah, they're a little exciting in a crosswind.
It was fun. I did get
But
to
they're
fly.
little sports cars. I actually like the spoiler-ons
Yep.
on that airplane. But all right,
Now
so
nobody wants them.
You are a pilot. You're not a mechanic, and you sell maintenance services for all of the facilities.
Yes.
Okay.
And when I first started there, that was different because every sales rep was tied to the location you were
Sure.
selling from. And we had them in Ohio, Tennessee, and 5 other places all over the place. And they operated like little independent little businesses, and crossing over into each other's area.
Right.
And in one of the conversations I had with Tom, the gentleman who owns a company, who has for almost 40 years, I think, I said, we need a team that will sell for your entire logo, the whole company. Well, let's make this a team.
Yeah.
And we did, and we changed that, I don't know, 8, 10 years ago, something like that.
I was going to say, because that gets very territorial.
It gets very weird. And it's like, no, we don't need this.
Yeah.
We're one company. Doesn't matter where it sells to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it benefits. So one of the questions that I had for you, just because I've been in this business for a long time too, but what is one of the oddest mods or repairs that you guys have ever done on an airplane?
Well, we've done a lot of extensive ones, oddest ones. We haven't done anything weird. Like done something where we've had a.
Well, you're defense systems, right?
So we are, and I'm not going to get into some of those. Those are interesting.
You'd have to kill us and then take the tape.
Yeah, that's right. Then this whole thing is just we can't even show it to the public at this point.
Know.
But one of the most interesting ones, I'll say, there was a tornado, and this wasn't a mod. This was a repair. But it was really interesting to see the whole thing happen. There was a tornado that kind of ripped apart John Tune Airport in Tennessee.
Okay.
I don't know how long ago, somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago, I just forget. But in a lot of the magazines, you'll see all these airplanes stacked up. One insurance company uses that same picture all the time.
Really?
There's a Premier and a King Air and a Bear, and they're all stacked up because that's a real photo. Well, there was a King Air 350 from a customer in Ohio that we were really good friends. That plane was caught up in that tornado. It blew it across the airport, destroyed one half of the whole plane. They were able to, legally ferry it up. They got the approvals and all that. Flew. There was, as the pilot said, I flew it home to Ohio, meaning flew it sideways to get there because it wasn't flying right. Jeez. But it was airworthy and everything was fine, right? It was legal. Got the plane up there. The entire right side of the plane, all the skin was replaced. The windshields, everything. It was just extensive how much work, because we got these pictures of everything that came off the plane and all the new, just kind of show off like, we're really big boys when it comes to sheet metal here. We rebuilt the plane.
So you said this was a 200?
It was a 350. It had a brand new Garmin panel. It had, fresh overhauled engines, and it's like, well, there's all your money.
Yeah.
And it was insured for more than apparently it was worth, so they went ahead and fixed it. But we redid the whole thing. Wow. And it was just fascinating to see. We can take a whole airplane, take it all apart, and put it back together again.
Yeah, that's a kind of a showcase of your capabilities, right?
Yeah, it took a horrible situation, and I think the university sold the plane after that. But either way, it turned it back into a straight flying, valuable plane again.
So I'm getting into the weeds a little bit, but because I'm married to an aircraft mechanic, I like to think that through osmosis, basically that makes me a mechanic.
If you ask me any question that I have, it's not going to happen.
All right.
I'll defer to, you have to talk to your husband.
It's a trick question. Yes. So on the wings and such, a lot of times you'll have to use a jig.
Yes.
To rebuild and reskin. So did you have all of those capabilities?
There were those things there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's about
to make sure it doesn't get twisted when they reskin it and rivet it together. You have to have it in this cradle basically that keeps everything nice and straight while you re-rivet it together.
We've taken a lot of Beechjet tails off. Those were all cracking, right?
Yeah, that leading edge.
No, we didn't do that. I think it's costed up when they were costed up in Cleveland. They did tons of them, but I got to see that whole thing. So you have to jig them up.
Yeah. So see, you know more than you give yourself credit for.
I just cannot.
You know as much as I do.
I just cannot talk legally about anything.
You plead the fifth. Excellent. All right. So now let's talk a little bit about your new facility here in Denver, which is you're here now. You're up and operational. I think I sent some business your way that Adam was very appreciative for.
We were just chatting about that down there, yeah.
So,
some engines, as I recall, yes.
So yeah, double engine R&R. So it's removal and replacement, and I think they put some rentals on there for now, or I don't know what
they're not loaners. We all know they're not called loaners because loaners are free. They're rentals.
They're rentals.
All engines are rentals.
R&R. So you guys are doing that right now. So clearly your capabilities, he was saying earlier, King Airs, Bravos, what else?
King Airs and Citations that start with a 5.
Okay.
Just look at it that way. So Mustang through XL, that world. So anything that kind of starts with a 5, CJs included. And the 3 shops, we have 2 shops back. We have East or TAP authorized, which means we can play with the engines on the CJs and things like that. But we've been in King Air and Citation world, but almost pretty much anything Textron or Citation makes. Yeah. And Beach, those kind of things. We've been one of those kind of suppliers. But with respect to what's happening here in Denver. That's been a long-standing shop. And Stephens was here in the Denver area years and years ago.
I remember.
Up at BJC.
Yeah.
And so that was, I think, Turbo West, the Cheyenne facility way back in the day. And I think we had purchased that and ran it as a Stephens place. But growth was all down at Centennial.
Yeah.
And so we had closed that. And some of the people that were up there went down to work for Mayo Aviation in Centennial.
Excellent.
And now they're working for us again. Kind of full circle-ish. But it was Mayo Aviation. You know, they run the charter management and all that. We basically have just acquired the maintenance. And everything else that's in there.
And Rich Ropp, it sounds like, who heads up that, he's here quite a bit. I kind of wish he was here today, but
fun guy.
He is a lot of fun. I've known Rich for a long time. So you just took over the maintenance portion, and then Mayo is still operating as Mayo under the Priester umbrella, correct?
Yeah. Nothing. However, that has changed over there because they did some shifting around, but it's all the same people, same things. They just kind of divided up the box a little bit more. But we're the maintenance arm of all that now. And it's a wholly standalone Stephens business.
So that is your own Part 145. Is that operated under its own entity there? Then?
Yes.
Okay. And then you just moved hangars.
Yeah, I don't know the hangar numbers. 3 comes to mind, but I don't know what they are. But either way.
Hangar 3, you heard it here.
Hangar some number, right? But they were down there in where Mayo was for quite some time. There were like 2 hangars kind of joined together.
Yep.
You had to step up in one of them. So the whole maintenance operation left there within the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
And they were just hand carrying everything up to the much nicer, newer.
Excellent.
I think it's like near 20,000 square feet hangar, but it was never set up to be an MRO. Okay. So when people were moving out, were moving in, the sawzalls are coming in and concrete, cutters. So they're building back shop offices and parts and things like that. So it's still in the middle of that.
Okay.
Next couple of weeks, all that'll be cleaned up. But it went from a really beautiful FBO front room, meeting room area and a lot of offices to now it's really beautiful with customer-based places to meet. But you got to run the business too, parts and shipping and all that stuff.
So when we come back to capabilities, like, are you going to be able, like, do you have NDT? Do you have, like, can you redo composite? Can you do any of that, or do you send that out?
I think some of that stuff is sent out. They were able to move their battery capabilities.
Oh, okay.
There, but some other thing, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. I mean, you're only 3 weeks into this.
We're 3 weeks into it.
I'm asking some tough questions.
Well, some of these capabilities are morphing literally as we speak.
Yeah.
And then, moving it from one repair station over to the other, things like that. So things are shifting a little bit.
And there's quite a few King Airs based right here in Denver.
It blew me away how many aircraft were actually based at APA.
Yeah.
Let alone the whole area.
Yeah.
Just the airport. It's incredible. We can work on, I don't know, at least a third of them.
Yeah. No, it is, depending on what year it is, it can be in the top 3 busiest business aviation airports in the country. So like Atlanta Peachtree is at the top, Teterboro is usually at the top, but Centennial's usually towards that top 3 to 5 anyway. So it's a very busy little airport, and it's got some of the best fuel rates in the country because you have several FBOs. You're not
competing
selling fuel.
with each other. No,
okay, that's good. You don't want to get into that fray.
But we also based an AOG truck out here, the aircraft on ground. That team, and we've got a couple dozen of those trucks running all over the United States. One particular giant fractional ownership type company has us going everywhere, right?
Right.
But that's obviously a large part of what we do. But there's tons and tons of other 135s and 91s that we're servicing. But we have a truck now based here. So Adam, the new sales rep out here, he came on board about a month ago. 25-year industry guy. Came on board about a month ago.
Pretty experienced.
Sharp as a tack, and what a good dude.
Yeah.
As he's out talking to people are really excited that, hey, Stephens has got their AOG trucks out here.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the hangar, which 90% of this whole discussion is, but we got guys out here now that are just traveling all over the place. And things that you guys have to deal with out here that we don't have to deal with in Ohio. If you need to get to the other side of the mountain range, you don't make this decision rather casually and apparently in December or January.
No.
We can do that in Ohio.
We're looking at our weather app like before anything. Like, all right,
how do we get over the pass?
Actually,
apparently flying there is easier than driving.
I was just going to say, I think you guys need an AOG airplane at King Air. AOG Kinger might be in the cards for you.
If you and Emily could put a package together where you guys own it, and all we do is operate it for
You don't have to ask
nothing.
me twice. I'd fly that airplane back and forth for you all the time.
I know.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about aviation and your new facility. So now we're getting into like the even more enjoyable part of our conversation.
Can I add one more thing about all this aviation stuff?
Sure.
So yeah, we just came back to Denver, right? So now
Okay.
we're back out here. We've been in Greenville, South Carolina. That's the mothership.
The mothership,
That's been
sure.
there for quite some time. Nashville, we were in Nashville for decades up at the big airport.
Been there several times.
Moved down to the Smyrna, you know where that is.
Yep, been there.
Built that facility 2 years ago. And it's a kind of a copy of what we have in Greenville. It's, 40, 50,000
I've
square
known
foot hangar.
Kenyon for a long time.
And yes, there you go. So you know
Yeah.
the team there. And it's prepped for another hangar. If you go outside, it's like, what's that field? Well,
You guys got a nice little corner of the airport there. So.
but yeah, 3 years ago, that was there were trees there. So
Yeah.
that's our corner. So we're all over the place right now. And
Yeah.
we, along with this Priester Mayo Hill Aviation thing, we took over or acquired the maintenance business from Hill at Fulton County.
Okay.
That all happened 6 months ago. So acquiring and growing,
Wow.
there's been a lot of this going on the last 8 months.
So how many
that
locations?
10 months ago, I didn't know was going to happen. So my world's like, hey, we're going to Denver. Off we go. Hey, we're in Atlanta.
This is the most fun of
Clearly,
all the.
there's no question.
Although I do like Nashville. Nashville is a fun place to visit. How many locations?
4, and then with the AOG team, they're mobile. We got
Yeah.
one of those, but it's 30 or 40 trucks, whatever they have now.
Okay. All right.
And
Excellent.
75. It's officially 75 years this year.
Wow. Really?
And probably the last 40 owned by the same person, which will own this place for years and years and years to come.
Yeah. And you said they're pretty good people.
He's a
You've known.
fantastic guy.
Yeah.
I could
Awesome.
text him now about motorcycles, wine, or cars, or
I like him already.
And he just, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, let's talk motorcycles.
We're shifting.
Yeah, we're
it?
shifting. We're shifting into sixth gear,
Sixth
man.
gear.
We're taking off. So the funny story that I like to tell about Phil is the fact that you and I met and got to know each other a little better in Tucson 2 months ago.
Work stuff, airplane
Yeah,
stuff.
airplane stuff, and
Looking at cactus.
Yeah.
Because they have them there.
they have a few, and it was nice. And I heard about the facility here, and I was happy to hear about that. And then probably 3 weeks ago, you send me this text that is like, "Oh, so you're famous," and I'm just like, "I don't know what you're talking about." There was no context around it. There was just nothing, and I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it turns out you saw my face on some email with the BMW Motorcycle Owners Association.
Yes.
And the upcoming rally, well,
Yes.
that's now passed.
The past happening
Yeah.
rally, yeah.
And apparently I was being a featured guest in their foundation booth, which was a much bigger deal than I anticipated. But apparently that went out, and that's when you had sent me that text, and I was like, what are you talking about? Then I'm like, wait a second, you ride motorcycles? You ride BMW? What do you got? And it turns out,
You asked me, how come we never talked about
I
this?
know,
I'm
we
how
had
do
all
you
this
get to that? I
time
don't know
together.
how
We
you
talk
get to
about
that part.
airplanes,
Yeah.
which I love, don't get me wrong. But yeah, motorcycles, and it sounds like you buy more than I do, which is really kind of difficult.
Addiction, it's a problem.
So tell us what you have now, or what you ride today.
Before I do that,
Okay.
when I looked into you a little bit, I'm like, okay, now that I'm like, you're on the MOA email, and I'm like, who is this person, right? So I looked and I'm like, you gotta be kidding
I
me.
know her.
She's chasing world famous motocross riders, and we were talking about Mackenzie, right?
Yeah,
From Australia.
Mackenzie, yeah.
You're hanging with her. Okay, wow. Okay, so I'm talking to royalty right now. I am down here, and you have invented the sport. So off of all that, you asked the question, right?
Yeah.
The bike in the garage right now, which, by the way, I'll have to send you a picture if I haven't. The side of my garage has got the BMW M Power logo, the 3-color stripe.
Yeah.
They're like 14-foot stripes. And
The M package, yeah, that's on everything.
painted on the wall of my garage. So when we built the house, Lisa's like, you can have the garage, and the
And
rest
you're
of the
like,
house is mine. I'm
game
like,
on, I know what I'm putting.
That's right, BMW logo on the wall. It's a 2022 F900 XR. So it's the upright twin. Love that bike. It was a leftover 22.
Okay.
So I picked it up. BMW was giving them away at that point, to get them off the.
Sure.
So I picked it up, and I really, really like it. I have to fix it because I'm a little bit tall. So better seat, lower peg. You gotta.
Yeah, I have the opposite problem.
Yeah, you got to lower and raise up. But you do all the stuff to make it fit. But it's a fantastic bike. Just went in for its first service, the 1,000-mile service, and I had this geek mode about me, kind of like you are with data, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I know exactly to the 10th how far away the dealership is from my home. So I rode to, it was like 961 and a half miles. I'm like, cool. When I leave here this morning, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to roll in at exactly 1,000 miles.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they look at it, they're like, really? I'm like,
well, I figured it
1,000-mile
out.
service?
I figured it out.
So that's what that is. But prior to that, it was a 2022 R1250 GS, the standard, not the Adventure.
Yeah.
I didn't need 7 gallons of.
Who does?
And that's an incredible bike. And there's a story behind, which we'll get to here in a little bit, of the premier training and all that happens down here.
Oh yeah.
But along with that, when I bought that, prior to that, I had 2 at the same time. It was a 2018 K1600 GTL, which even though I'm a big guy, one person, this is a giant. This is like driving a city bus.
So nice though.
But it's really comfortable. When Elisa was on the back, I had no idea she was there. She is a much, much, much better rider or passenger than I am a rider. As I'll go into turns, she's leaning more. And usually a passenger won't lean enough.
Right.
You're like, oh, we're going to die now. She leans more, and then she's like, come on, you're not leaning enough.
Get into it.
Yeah.
She should be a coach with me.
Yeah, and I'm more nervous with her on the bike because I don't want to hurt her.
Yeah.
So I get a little more timid, and it makes me not enjoy the ride as much. And she's leaning over going, come on, we got to scrape some hard parts.
She sounds like she maybe is destined for her own bike.
She wants to.
Okay. Send her to me.
I know, yeah. No, I can't afford
it.
So I had the 2018 GTL, and at the same time I had a 2019, it was an F800 GS.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
And I didn't like it.
Okay.
I had it for a couple thousand miles, and I had it during COVID. So when I bought it, it was right before COVID. When I sold it back to the dealer, it was during COVID, when Berlin or whoever, they couldn't ship a motorcycle. Nobody had stock.
Yeah.
I'm like, you want this one back? Basically gave me what I paid for it.
Nice.
Yeah, so I did really well moving things back and forth to the same dealer who, they just love me because I'm on bike 4 within, 3 years. When I ordered the 1250, it was right then that I took the class down in South Carolina.
Right.
Because I had 0 dirt experience.
So the class that he's referring to is the BMW Performance Center out of Greer.
And the MOA have their premier training at times. So I signed up for one of those. And quite honestly, I was scared to death to do it. And being not in shape enough like a really well-tuned adventure rider, when you're literally not sitting down all the time, your thighs are hurting all the time. But I'm doing things that I'm not used to, and it was really nerve-wracking at first, and then it got fun.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting at lunch talking to the editor of the magazine, and you mentioned his name the other day, but I forgot it.
Bill.
Bill.
Yep.
So he was there shooting pictures.
Yeah.
And I had just had this incident right before lunch, which just convinced me how much fun this was. As we're tractoring around the forest back there, and we're all we're the beginner class, right? So everybody's just towing along doing their thing, and I'm kind of staring down at the front wheel, which you shouldn't do.
Right.
Eyes up, out all the time. I get it. But as we're tooling around in there, I got a little behind the group, and then the group peeled off and did something. And I went through, and I ended up out in a little field. I'm like, oh,
because you were looking down.
I was like trying not to kill myself, right? I'm looking around, I get out there, I'm like, this is no good. So I turn back around, I come back in, and I see them. And they're down what felt like 10 feet down on this, 85-degree incline that had alligators and various road signs to kill me and all that kind of. And I'm one of the other guys.
Ricardo? Ricardo
maybe
or
Guy
Roberto?
or something like that. Well, he's looking at it and he's going, yeah, this isn't part of the course, but if you want to give it a shot, here's how you do it. And I'm like, this is, I'm going to dislocate a shoulder. I'm not going to be able to ride. I'm having all these thoughts.
That's pretty funny.
And I'm up there, and he goes, here's what you do. Keep your eyes on me. Straight forward, look up.
Yeah.
Just let out the clutch, let it tractor itself over, but keep your eyes on me. Do not look down.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I'm just like thinking, I'm going to crash. And that bike at 1250, right? It's just like a real tractor. Went up, back down, and I'm giggling inside my helmet, just laughing up a storm. And I was telling this to Bill, and I'm like, I just got to trust the bike.
Yeah.
And I said, this off-road riding is hilarious, even though this is at the 1 or 2% level of let's go out and loft the wheel and climb over things and go through creeks, which we did by the end of the day. But he goes, I was kind of telling him how I got from A to B on the whole thing. He goes, you think you could write that up? I'm like, I can do that. And I did, and he edited it. I wrote a story, and he edited it, down in here, took some pictures, and right inside the main cover of the story, I'm standing on the bike just tooling around in a circle, and Mackenzie's in the background with her little half finger gloves, and she's coaching me on what to do. That's the picture on the front of the article.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and it was fantastic. But
yeah, that class that you're talking about, that's their off-road course that you're taking, and Mackenzie is a world-class enduro racer.
Very intimidating. I'm like, I'm horrible. She's amazing. But a great teacher.
Yeah, but she doesn't even come off as like know-it-all or like. Actually, I didn't even know she was a world-class racer because I just went and rode with this very kind of quiet person. And
with an accent.
With an accent. She was a lovely person the first time I met her. And then I started like chasing her, and she started going faster and faster and faster and faster. And then I was like,
your life's flashing in front of your eyes.
I'm going to die.
See?
And I was just like, I was really impressed with this person because, skill levels, you don't know. And I don't want to make assumptions on who rides well and who doesn't, but I had never been kind of like put in my place quite like when I first rode with Mackenzie. And when we stopped at the next break, I was just like...
In between breaths?
Yeah, I'm just like, you ride really well. And then one of her coworkers at the performance center was like, she's an enduro racer. And then I'm like looking her up and I'm like...
Like I did you.
She's like a podium, like she's in first place all the time. So yeah,
well, you have some of this GS trophy world, in your world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did the same thing. You were
like
looking her up, like, Kandi, oh my God.
Like I thought she just sold airplanes. Nope. Yeah. So much more.
So we're never going to go riding in the dirt together because I'll be shamed.
No. I hope you do because I love working with new riders. I just taught a class this past weekend, 7 students who are new to dirt. And what I love about it is at the end of 2 days, like they're doing the same thing you're doing. You get them on a hill and they're like, I'm too scared. I'm too jammed up. I'm a conservative rider. I've been on the street all my life. Like traction, like where's the traction? And it's foreign and we have to put ourselves out of our comfort zone. And then if you let the bike do what it does best, lo and behold, you're just like, I didn't die.
Well, they're telling me, they're like, everything that tire's experiencing and what you're feeling, it's noise. Don't worry about that. Yeah. It'll just tractor right on over it.
Just go right through it. If you get your body in right, just let it roll and it goes right over stuff. So,
my first street track day was a very similar experience, and I was on an 07 Suzuki Bandit that we found 40 extra horsepower that Japan forgot. All those kind of things. But I was scared to death. It was my first track day, and chicken strips on your tires, right? I had huge ones on the tire, and I'm concerned, like, these things are going to slip out. He's like, they're 800-mile Michelin pilot. Instructors are like, you got the best tires here, you're fine. So this instructor ahead of me in the beginner class, and he was an amazing rider. He had barely treaded tires on his, and he's riding in the rain. He's leaning over, running a rooster tail off the back, and I just had to focus on him. I'm like, if that can do it, I can do it. And I remember having the experience there at the off-road course with BMW, same thing on the track day. What came to my mind was, I'm here to learn. Yeah. And if I don't risk it here, I'm never going to risk it out in public, which you shouldn't be risking it out in public anyway. But I want a controlled track with ambulances over there, everything. If it's going to happen, I need to happen here. Yeah. And I never wrecked at the track, so I really didn't take it as far as what I could have.
You got to trust the process. Yeah.
And I didn't lay it down in the dirt over at BMW, and that's the one thing I wish I would have, because they said And
Yeah,
jokingly,
you break it?
they said total 2 of them. After that, we're going to have a talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't lay it down. And it's like that. What that told me is, one, I'm either incredible, which is not true. The other part was I didn't push myself enough, which means I'm going back.
So what other classes, motorcycle classes, have you taken? And tell me, are you signed up for any coming up?
Well, weird that you asked that. So I've done the normal, the basic rider courses and the advanced course. And I think the advanced course was based around like a military course that they had one time.
Was this at the Performance Center?
No, not BMW, like state-run kind of stuff,
Oh, okay.
like the motorcycle Ohio.
They have an advanced rider course, so ARC?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I heard some history about that. But either way, I've taken that. A lot of that was I can do a lot of fun stuff in a controlled environment.
Yeah.
One of the things I wish it would have done was let's do the same thing at 60 miles an hour when I'm trying to get some lean.
Yeah.
But they're like, the principles are the same. Figure it out at 5 miles an hour. Yeah, but I'm like, up here it's not the same.
Right.
So that's why you have track days.
Well, yeah, and your risk factor is much higher
Clearly,
the faster
yeah.
you're going. So, yeah.
So as far as classes go, because we met like the night before, everybody had pizza or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I'll sign up with the crazy people because these like 8 guys or 7 guys came in from different countries and they just wanted to go all out. And I'm like, these guys are going to kill themselves, but they needed an extra person. I'm like, I'll join them. And I'm so glad I did because I ended up being better than some of them. And I'm like, okay, I'm pushing myself. But these guys are like, we need to go through sand. And they're like, we don't have any sand to do this here. That's a different course. But we have really thick rocks.
Yeah.
So at like a half an hour, we cut out a lunch, and they're like, let's go back to the rocks. And it was a whole thing of just like, think of it as a jet ski.
Yep.
Put your butt back, let the steering wheel do its thing, and just keep going.
Yeah.
And that was the key to the whole thing, because if you stop or slow down, you fall right over.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Sure. So I've done a couple courses there, then the normal rider courses you get out of your state.
So you haven't done a high-speed one yet?
I have not.
Okay, I'll give you a recommendation. And I have no problem saying it here because I have taken Yamaha Champ School.
Okay.
So they just call it Champ School now. You can be on a BMW.
I'll have to go back and watch this to remember what you're about to tell me.
So Champ School, like one of the best high-speed cornering classes I've ever taken. I took it at High Plains Raceway here in Colorado, but they go all over the country.
Okay.
But go on Champ School, check it out. They have a great program, and I'll tell you what, I learned so much, and I never felt more confident at high-speed corners after this class.
Okay.
And when you're on the GS or even the XR, I'm sorry, even the XR would be fantastic at this. The confidence inspiring.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like you want to giggle while you're in the curves.
Which I'm apparently good at. Yeah, yeah.
So there will be a lot of giggling in your future. But tell me about the class that you're signed up for. And why did you sign up for it?
There's giggling going on in this room because I heard this story earlier. But you and I were talking.
Yeah.
And I think I remember I was trying to get a hold of you, and you're like, yeah, I just landed in San Diego or something like that. I'm like, on vacation? What, screwing around in San Diego? And you're like, nope. Here at wheelie school. It's like, what is a wheelie school other than the obvious? Because, so I went and looked at it, and the moment you told me about it, probably within 15 minutes, and this was, here we are in, well, I don't want to say what month it is because it'll date the thing. Yeah. But here we are in the summer, right? Because it's hot outside. Within 15 minutes of that, I signed up for the December class. And I'm the only one on the roster right now because
December is going to be fantastic.
Oh,
the weather will be great.
And it's their bikes. You show up with your gear, your normal street gear, all the skin's covered and all that kind of thing.
It was such a blast. And we've been wanting to sign
University, is it?
Wheelie University. That's
right.
That's right. It's just outside of San Diego. And the guy that's been teaching it has been doing it for 11 years. And he's got 2 bikes rigged up with 2 safety mechanisms in it. And so he just kind of eases you into this. So again, you show up, butterflies going, like, I'm going to potentially die, but at least I'm going to be happy.
Well, and the thought is, if I let this thing out, 2 things are going to happen. One, it's going to flip over,
right,
and I'm going to land on my spine, and I'm either going to die or I'm going to be, someone's going to have to help me for the rest of the time.
It's going to cut into your work schedule.
Or I'm going to blow up the bike somehow, and now I got a problem with my hands. My big fear is if I get this thing off the ground, it's going over the top.
Yeah.
I've had more than enough people tell me, you're a big guy. It's going to take a lot to get a bike
Yeah,
over. But
sure.
physics are physics. It'll lift.
Actually,
So, there you go.
interestingly enough, Brian, the lead instructor out there, he said that the bigger you are, it's actually easier to wheelie. So there you go. But he eases you into it. You're just doing little baby wheelies, and by the end of the day, you can crank it back. And,
I've seen some of the safety device thing where clearly they got wheelie bars back there, but if you go up too much, it'll start tamping down the rear brake,
The rear
which will
brake, yeah.
which will break the wheelie anyway.
Yep, and they have another mechanism that's more electronic. The brake mechanism, I think, is meant more as a backup
Sure.
to the electronic. So the technology is actually really amazing. That's kind of a secret sauce, and you're going to have a blast.
Well, when I spoke with him the other day, because I never got a return email, and it turns out it was my fault.
Yeah.
I had screwed up my email address, but luckily
no.
I had the phone. I called him, and he goes, "Oh, here's the problem," and poof, it all started working. And I said, because he was asking me about my background and such, and I said, you know, I really have no interest in just being a wild hooligan out in the street.
Right.
There's no place for that, right? As fun as it is, and I'm sure, but
Yeah.
I've never done it. I said, my thing is, I want to be able to launch the bike. I want to have some fun, and if I do get into it and that front wheel comes up, even though the electronics on my bike is going to pull it back down, but
Right.
I can always turn those things off.
Right.
I want to be able to control it in a confident way and have fun with it rather than freak out and then do something where the bike is going to get mad at me and throw me off.
Right.
Or I'll crash it because of just my fear of I'm out of control. Because, you know, there's been times where you just go at it and let out the clutch too much and it comes up.
Yeah,
and
that
then you're-
GS has tons of torque.
Exactly. And now
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the bike coming off the ground rather than what am I doing and where am I going. So
Right.
I've become unsafe at that point. So I want to be a safer, more confident rider. You know, and clearly there will be times where I just go out and take it up in the air.
This is a trick question, but do you think that I took the class to be a wild hooligan?
You
That's what I
already,
heard.
But you already are. So this was an enhancement to the hooliganism
Wild
to do
hooligan.
so. But I've seen the pictures of you, and just from what you've been talking about, the smile continues. So
Yeah.
So tell me, what did you experience out there, and how much did you hate it?
No, I loved it, and
Exactly.
the whole reason that I do these things, it's the same thing with GS training or GS trophy training, the Wheelie University, the Yamaha Champ School. Like, I'm a big believer in training, right? That's my message on all of the motorcycling trainings that I do is continuous training. It's a perishable skill, right? So I really enjoy being able to do this because A, the bike is capable of it. But B, I like to be a master of the machines that I'm on.
Gotcha.
It's the whole reason I did aerobatics when I flew aerobatics back when I lived in Chicago. It's not this like hooligan mindset or risk taker or adrenaline junkie or anything like that. It's fun. It certainly brings a smile to my face and I giggle a lot. But it's more about knowing the limits of the motorcycle, what it's capable of, and being able to control it in unusual attitudes, whether it's an airplane or a motorcycle. And I just love mastering
And most
that.
people don't. I mean,
Yeah.
back in the day when most suspensions on bikes were manually adjustable, right?
Yeah.
Now everything's ESA of some sort.
Right.
So it's harder to tell. But you could walk into a motorcycle shop and look at all the used bikes and almost guarantee 95% of them they had the factory suspension and they were at the factory settings and when the bike was born 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And people have no idea of the capability that they could have had
Yeah.
and used to make them better, more comfortable and safer. And that's where I am with this bike. This bike has more capability than I will ever have in a
Yeah.
million years. So let's use it and have some fun with it.
So the GS model, I don't know if you know this stat, but the GS model, which is a great off-road model.
And you can go around the world on it.
Yes.
Yes.
I've traveled all over on the GS.
The 85-part series with Ewan McGregor and all
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that
I
one.
know.
Only 10% of them ever go off-road.
I can believe it. But, and that's a fair point, because when I bought my GS, it was more about the seating position and the comfort.
Oh, it's super comfortable.
Oh, you could get on that
But
thing and ride 1,000 miles.
The XR is super comfortable too.
Yeah.
So
Just
I
for,
mean,
10 grand less,
Yeah,
that kind of
right.
thing. But I bought it because it was a very comfortable,
Yeah.
upright touring bike. And of course, it's the 1250 GS. So you're like, oh, you got the one.
Yeah.
But again, more capability than I'll ever use in a million years. And even the standard version has, with the probably 9010s that it came with on the tires, maybe 8020s,
Right.
I don't know.
Oh yeah.
The guys at the training center, they're like, the tires that bike has other than wet leaves and mud, everything we're doing will be just fine. You only need knobbies if you're going in deep.
I tell people if it's round, black, and it holds air, you should be able to ride it.
Pretty much, right.
Because we're not doing competition. We don't need to air down every time we go in the dirt or anything
Right.
like that. If you're in the deep mud, sand stuff, then it starts to matter. But most people are not doing that.
But people probably buy them just because they're really comfortable
And they're
touring
good.
by.
They're good looking bikes.
It's a good looking bike.
It's a good looking bike. So I wore my
held its resale value pretty well too when I sold
It
the
has.
bike. So really good.
So I wore
Yes.
my BMW shirt today just because I knew that I'd be visiting with Phil here. But I think we should probably have you back maybe in January after you have the permagrin from Wheelie University. But
San Diego one wheeling.
that I can't wait to hear and see the pictures. So, but
The worst part of that trip will be the 6 hours of flying to get there from Ohio. And 6
it'll be
hours back.
totally worth it.
But on the way back, I'll be all geeked out.
Totally worth it. But I appreciate you being here today and spending time with me.
Worked
and
out perfectly.
Telling me a little bit about your background and the new location of Stevens.
Yeah.
There at Centennial. And we'll have you back next year. But thanks for being here.
I'll see you in January.
All right. And that is it for Two Wings Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Good.
How long was that one?
About 50 minutes.
Wow. Okay.